And then we had the wildest theory of them all, and the least likely, but I guess it's fun to speculate what it might look like, which is the possibility that the Khan family, and no, I'm not talking about Nick Khan or Chaka Khan, but Shad and Tony Khan could be interested in buying WWE and potentially merging it with AEW. This is according to two different reports, one from CNBC and another from the financial journal Barron's, two very legitimate news sources. The CNBC report says that All Elite Wrestling, a professional league owned by the Khan family, is interested in merging with World Wrestling Entertainment, according to people familiar with the matter. The Khans, who also own the NFL's Jacksonville Jaguars and the Premier League's Fulham FC, could partner with a strategic media company to share the intellectual property while merging the wrestling leagues, said the people, who asked not to be named because the discussions are private. The idea that Vince McMahon, the controlling shareholder of WWE, would merge his company with the much smaller AEW is a long shot, to say the least. AEW has not had talks with McMahon or Nick Khan, the company's chief executive, said people. McMahon may view selling to the Khans as a non-starter. The Khans are open to discussing a potential role for McMahon after a sale, but have not yet had those talks. Shad Khan himself is worth about $7 billion. $7 billion is about what WWE would be looking for in a sale. So he would have to get outside financing and partner with somebody else to do this deal. But this is so pie in the sky. I cannot help but laugh at the idea that Vince McMahon's ego would ever allow him to sell his company to, what did Triple H call them? That pissant company? There's no way. There is no way. I don't care what timeline we are living in right now and how crazy it might be. It ain't that crazy. That is to say nothing of the fact that we would be right back to where we were when WCW died, which is having one person with a monopoly on the wrestling industry in this country. I appreciate that Tony Khan is a real fan. But having him and his family own WWE, and it depends. Look, if they brought in a partner and it was a 50-50 thing, then they wouldn't own 100% of the company. But having him and his family own WWE and AEW and Ring of Honor, which would probably cease to exist at that point if this ever went through, in the long run, I think that would be a terrible thing for the wrestling business. And it would be a terrible thing for the wrestlers themselves. To have one family owning everything. How would that even work? Tony Khan would probably want to run all three. He barely has time to run the two that he has now. Plus Fulham and whatever he does with the Jaguars and whatever else he does on a daily basis. How many fucking Red Bulls or White Claws would this guy have to down to book WWE, AEW, and Ring of Honor? If he ran them separately, because the CNBC story says it would be a merger, that they would merge the two. I don't know if that's just them using the wrong word or if literally they would want to merge the companies or not. I can't see that. But if he ran them separately, I can just see it now. The bags under his eyes, it'd be so big. You know how kangaroos have those pouches that they jump into? You would probably be able to fit a couple of kangaroos inside the bags under Tony Khan's eyes. How wired would that guy be? It's funny to think about, but there's no way I could ever seriously see Vince McMahon even considering such a thing. I think he would be offended by even the mere notion of it. He would do business with fucking Genghis Khan before he would sell his company to Tony Khan. But I told you earlier, the most absurd McMahon family news this week had nothing to do with Vince or Stephanie. It had to do with Shane McMahon. We learned in an SEC filing this week what Shane McMahon was paid for his lone appearance on WWE television last year. And it said this: in 2022, Shane McMahon was retained as an independent contractor performer by the company and received an aggregate of approximately $828,000 in connection with such services. Shane was not only the lead producer for the most boring Royal Rumble match of all time. He was in the match. He was in the final three before being eliminated by Brock Lesnar, since apparently he did not want to be made to look weak, but he was okay with being eliminated by Brock. Brock's okay. I'll let Brock eliminate me. and the match was roundly criticized for being just overall terrible. Internally, he had heat on himself for making all kinds of changes and just generally being a pain in the ass to work with that night. So much so that 4 days later he was sent home and they canceled their plans for him for Elimination Chamber at WrestleMania. Vince McMahon fired his own son. But the most egregious part of this is that the man booked the most boring Royal Rumble match in history, made exactly one appearance on television that lasted all of 5.5 minutes, and got paid almost $1 million for doing so. Here comes the money indeed. Here comes the money, there goes the money.